There you go. Now you know. Welcome, everyone. We have asked Niesha and Raquib as co-chairs of this Sampson Collaborative Grant-Making Committee to provide an info session. I believe Raquib is not feeling well today. And so I think Niesha is going to be presenting on her own. So thank you all for coming, Niesha. Thank you for joining. And I'll just preface this by saying the Food Policy Council is super excited about this opportunity. As probably many of you know, we right now are working on priorities of our Greater Pittsburgh Food Action Plan. And one of those priorities that we've been focusing on is to secure financial support for regional and community food systems development. And this grant-making opportunity that's coming out of Sampson is very much in line with that opportunity. And we are really excited. Niesha is on the board at the Pittsburgh Food Policy Council, among her many other accomplishments, which I'll let her share. And Raquib Bey is a former steering committee member and council member, and certainly a leader in the urban ag community. And we are super excited about this work and really excited for Niesha to share it with us. So Niesha, I just wanted to check in with you. Do you want me, I was thinking if you like, you can just take a couple minutes to introduce yourself, any kind of intro you want to share, and then I can start sharing the slides and you can go through it. Does that sound good?
Yep, sounds good.
One of the volume up. You got it?
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Alrighty, so as Colin said, thank you for the intro. My name is Niesha Johnson. I'm a board member of the Pittsburgh Food Policy Council. I operate as an environmental health and public health consultant and a mother. So you ready for me, Carla? All right, be prepared. You're going to hear a lot of baby coos and ahs as we get through this presentation.
And I don't usually like handle the Zoom thing and screen share at the same time. So I think I know what I'm doing, guys. Can you see it?
Yes, you got this.
Fabulous. All right.
So thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I am pleased to announce the issuance of this RFP, and I wanted to walk you all through the application process. This is just the LOI process. Individual applicants will be notified if they will be invited to fill out a formal application. So the LOI was issued on December 6th, and from December 6th to January 7th, we'll be accepting applications. You all will see a clearer timeline towards the end of this presentation. So I'm going to get started.
Niesha, just sort of signal when you want me to advance.
Okay. Ready? I'm ready for you. All right, so as Carlin said, the Sampson Foundation, they are the funder for this grant opportunity. They've employed Becca and Vanessa of Intentional Philanthropy to help facilitate this process. Raquib and I, we serve as the committee's co-chairs, and everyone else that you see on the board, on the committee, they are an amazing group of growers, business owners, and community leaders. Abdul Kadir, he works over on, I believe, the West End. He works with Somali Bantu tribe. Ayana Jones, she operates in Homewood. Ebony Lunsford Evans, she's from a Grow Ebb. She works over in the West End as well. And she actually operates a small scale grocery store. Eva Barenas, she is the farm ed person at Grow Pittsburgh. Eva works mostly in schools with school gardens. And Natisha Washington, Natisha has worked in Homewood at Junior Green Corps with OBB, Operation Better Block. And now Natisha is working in environmental policy with 1PM. So just amazing, amazing group of folks, very experienced, very knowledgeable to help us lead this initiative. Next slide. So a lot of folks are not necessarily familiar with Participatory Grant Making Committee, myself included. Before this opportunity, I actually had to do some research. and learn about, okay, what exactly is this? What is it? How does it operate? Participatory grant making is collaborative participation. No one voice is louder than any of the others. So group consensus leads the decision-making process, and it shifts that kind of rigid grant-making process into one that's a lot more fluid and a lot more inclusive. So the Sampson Foundation more or less just gave us the opportunity to take the process from start to finish into our own hands. Next slide, please. So I'm going to walk you all through the grant-making focus areas, and I'll leave some space for Q&A towards the end. But I just want to give a really brief overview. I know that some of the information is already in the RFP, but I'm sure that folks may have some questions specific to their organization and their individual applications. I'm happy to answer those questions. All right, next slide, please. So our first focus area is land ownership. We know that there are existing growers who have been serving their community for years without actual ownership of the land. So we wanted to ensure that their hard work and effort is preserved, and we want to encourage existing growers to apply for this opportunity. This is specifically for growers who are currently growing at a garden or farm. Next slide, please. So land acquisition is the second focus area. This one is a little bit different from land ownership in that this is for growers who are looking to acquire new plots of land, or for folks who are interested in expanding their existing farms. So it's a little bit different, but it's somewhat similar. The only difference is that we're going to be providing different types of resources to folks. So folks who have been in existence and want to purchase the land that they've been operating on, we may provide different resources to someone who is actively seeking to purchase a new plot of land. For instance, folks who are in Adopt a Lot or Love Your Block programs, their process may look a lot different for someone who's looking to purchase land directly from the city or from the URA. Next slide, please. Third focus area is community education. So we wanted to focus on educating and engaging residents, creating opportunities for partnerships and collaborations between community-based organizations. Food apartheid communities in this context means specifically those communities where access to healthy and affordable food is limited, or those communities without a grocery store. I know that a lot of folks are familiar with community engagement, but we wanted to make it a little bit more specific beyond just engagement. We wanted to ensure that there was an educational aspect to each of these initiatives that would be proposed. Next slide, please. And retail and distribution. So we felt as though this was huge when it comes to scaling our efforts for food security. Many growers are also business owners that produce, sell, and create their own marketable products. So we wanted to make this opportunity available for a range of possibilities within the retail and distribution industry. Packaging, marketing, storage, transportation. We're not going to limit folks. Just as broad as you can get, as creative and innovative as you can get. We don't want to isolate anyone's ideas. We want to make space for this, because even if this opportunity isn't the opportunity for you, we'll connect you to other resources that may be able to help you grow that idea and build it out a little bit further. We've been in talks with Craft from Chatham University. I believe it's the Center for Regional Agriculture, Food. I'm not sure what the T is, my apologies. But Carlin, do you know?
Sorry, I was looking for the unmute button. It's transformation.
Transformation, thank you. Yes, so we've been in talks with folks at Craft. They have programs that focus in product and process development, regulatory and compliance, and they also offers serve-safe certifications. So we wanted to ensure that not only are we getting folks the opportunities, the funding, excuse me, that they need, but also helping them with the actual technical piece as well. So ready for your next slide. Our requirements are fairly simple. We just want to ensure that applicants have an existing gardener farm in the city of Pittsburgh and that the budget is less than $200,000 a year. Hey, Jasmine. Not only, excuse me, that just threw me off. Not only, oh, I'm so sorry. So this opportunity, that's what I was going to say, is not only limited to nonprofit organizations. This opportunity is also open to business owners as well. We wanted to ensure that we didn't limit this opportunity. Again, even if the opportunity isn't exactly perfect for you, we can provide you with some type of resources, to help you move forward. So for business owners who are interested in applying for this opportunity, we are happy to connect you with a fiscal sponsor so that you all can receive grant funding. If you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer those questions for you as well. Next slide, please. So our LOI, I'm going to walk you through the actual submission process. It's fairly simple again. Like this process isn't intended to be how traditional grant applications are. It was very, the committee members were very adamant about not having those the barriers that we usually face, and that okay, very lengthy application. Garland, your smile is just throwing me off. Okay.
I will try really hard to not smile anymore. I'm sorry. I just am gazing at the baby and I can't stop, guys. But I'm gonna do my best.
I figured that's okay. I'm trying to move forward and just get it done.
And we can hear you just fine over her chatting, so don't worry about it.
Wonderful. Can I get the next slide, please? Thank you. All right, so in order to submit an LOI, you'll have to follow these steps, and the information is also listed in the RFP. The one key aspect that I wanted to point out is that translation services are available. Thank you, Jamie. Translation services are available. You can give Vanessa a call. Vanessa is a part of the facilitation process with Sampson Foundation. She works for Intentional Philanthropy, and they're also helping us kind of figure out the nuances with this different committee, this different process through the committee. So if you haven't applied to the Sampson Foundation in the past, of course, you'll have to create an account. Again, if you have any questions or if you need any support with technical assistance, you can contact Vanessa at that phone number or that email address. I'm also available for any types of support that you may need. So next slide, please. And here is the timeline. I can send out the timeline individually separate from these slides. If you'd like, you can drop your email in the chat and I'll get that to you later on today. But the RFP has been issued, I believe, about a week or so ago. We put it out through social media, through our email chains, and the LOI is due on January 7th. Organizations will receive an email inviting them to apply through the formal application. Your application will be due in February, the beginning of February, and then you will receive you'll receive a notification with the final decision being made. You'll get a determination of the funding amount that you'll receive as well, March 3rd. So that way folks can have an opportunity to plan accordingly. And then we'll also make some time and space for feedback to be given for those folks who may not have been able to advance through the entirety of the process. And next slide, please. Thank you, Dina. You're right about that. So if anyone has any questions for me, I am happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Niesha. That's awesome.
I have a question. Is this the only grant cycle? Will this be repeated next year or in 6 months or?
So this was an introductory initiative from Sampson. I'm not sure whether this specific grant opportunity will be repeated, but I am certain that Sampson will provide another program that we're actually working on right now. So it'll be, they're working in coordination with the CFDI, someone like Bridgeway Capital. It's not Bridgeway specifically, but someone like Bridgeway Capital where we will be providing down payments for loans for farmers and growers who want to expand their existing farms and gardens or acquire new properties. So that program will be ready to launch in the summer of 2022, and we'll get some just some preliminary information out to you all. I'd say some likely in the new year. Maddie had a question in the chat, and
A new cycle in the new year?
I'm sorry.
A new grant cycle starting in the new year, or?
The loan program.
Oh, the loan program. Okay.
Yeah, the loan program will be, no, that's okay. The loan program will be initiated within the new year. It'll launch in summertime, but we'll have some information to get out to you all within the first couple of months of 2022. But I will be happy to pass that information on to Sampson and let them know that folks may be interested in seeing this come back again throughout 2022. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Going back to Maddie's question. So Jerry also had this question for me as well. He's working in Wilkinsburg with some folks who are growing. And I talked to Becca and Vanessa about it, and the board, Sampson's board, is open to applications that are within, I'd say about 10 miles within city limits. They're open to, I'd say, the greater Pittsburgh area. That was how I framed it to them initially, and they gave us the go ahead. So if it's a little bit too far out, we'll contact you individually. But as I said, we want to keep this very broad. So we will accept those LOIs. And if anything happens, we'll give you all information about either other resources that may be a better fit, and just any other information that we can provide you. We're not going to turn anyone away with a hard no. Even if it's a no, you will get resources and feedback that will help you improve.
That's great. Thanks, Niesha. I also just wanted to say Jerry's email and any other emails that get dropped in the chat, I can capture and share with you, Niesha. You don't have to worry about doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anyone else have any questions? I had one question that I could share. Unless somebody else wants to speak up. I was curious, Niesha, with the neighborhoods, is that I understood that you said that the focus and priority is on communities experiencing food apartheid. Is there, I assume that people that live in those communities know they're living in those communities, and I'm sort of thinking from what you're saying there's not, but do you have communities identified, like a list of priority communities, or are they just going to be like evaluated on a case-by-case basis? So
we initially wanted to go with Feed Pittsburgh's criteria for, what was it, healthy food priority areas.
That's it.
Fortunately, the scope was not as full as we needed it to be. So communities like Belsuver were not included in the healthy food priority areas. So we didn't quite have enough time to define it well enough for this opportunity, for the timeline that was set for this opportunity, excuse me. So unfortunately, it will likely have to be on a case-by-case basis. We can use the healthy food priority areas as a basis, but yeah, some of the affected communities just weren't included.
Okay, so you think that the communities will be potentially those healthy food priority areas plus additional communities? That's like as a gauge, as a rough gauge.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions?
Well, if not, I got a weird one for you. This is one maybe for the group to think about, but and that is about forests. You know, here in Hazelwood, you know, our forests are a big part of the food conversation. You know, of how can this land be managed or not, you know, cultivated, but like rewilding our food sources and our food systems, you know. And some very big news in the headlines that I'd like everybody to think about or be aware of. You know, this a big announcement from the outgoing mayor administration about parks, about turning greenways into parks. And this affects very much Hazelwood and Glen Hazel, but also I think it directly affected 6 neighborhoods. You know, the seldom seen Greenway, which I think is over by Beltsuver. Do I have my geography wrong? I ain't from around here. Well, all these neighborhoods, but many greenways. And now this is an opportunity, and this is something I've been saying for a while, that with this, also with this transition of mayoral administrations, that I think a discussion that I look forward to raising that profile of this discussion of how forests play a role in our food systems and can be, and that is the question that as it relates to this grant, is that it seems like this might be an opportunity to take a look at the map in your neighborhood and say, okay, we've got a little patch of forest here and a little patch of forest there. Can we start to connect them and make a functioning ecological unit, or do some like boundary, you know, try to just make forest places rounder, you know, kind of stuff, you know, connectivity and contiguity, is that the other word? You know, making patchwork places rounder. So this might be an opportunity for that. I think it's a little short notice for this cycle. That was why my first question was, will there be future opportunities? Because I think that's something that the city and maybe the Food Policy Council can provide a forum, or you know, I would want to be in on that discussion, of course, you know, with garden groups that are looking to expand beyond, you know, just the empty lot scale and really decolonize. You know, I like you know, rewild our food system. I think that's as good as it gets. If you want to decolonize it, you know, that's a good word too, but forests.
Thank you, Matt.
There you go.
Niesha, do you have any, like, is there any anything that you want to respond to? Anything that you want to say in response to Matt's comment? I'm sorry, guys, the words are coming slowly today.
That is okay. My apologies. I had to turn my camera off to do some baby care. But so Matt, can I paraphrase your question or try to summarize it, I guess? Are you asking if there is an opportunity for grant funding to support the, I guess, growing within the forest?
I guess that would there be opportunity for land acquisition?
Okay.
If an argument can be made that this or that piece of forest is a part of a food production system. And if that's a pretty low bar, then that could include a lot of forests, you know. Well,
let me pose this question to you. Do you think that we should have private ownership of public land?
No. I'm glad. I mean, that gives me an opportunity. Thank you for asking that. Private and public. Well, private forests. Wow, that's a big one. Just to fill the space while I try to figure out what to say. You know, as you know, I'm with the Hazelwood Urban Ag Team, but I'm also with an organization called Heartwood, which deals with public lands like national forests and logging, and that public land question on a policy level, you know, and of course addresses that question of like private lands and private forest landowners. Now on a micro scale, also here in Hazelwood, I own my home and I picked my house because I am up against the Greenway, you know, And yes, that I was just drafting something, a little paragraph for a document that Hazelwood Initiative is producing, and I used the term, what did I use? The term urban wildland interface, right? And talk about how this edge habitat is a place where entrepreneurs can thrive. You know, it's entrepreneur habitat, that somebody can purchase a $2,000 or $20,000 oil mill and get this and press hickory nuts for oil. You know, you can just like who needs olive trees, you know? Never tried it, but apparently our forests just have tremendous abundance that I never even considered. You know, we're just starting to get into goats and people doing goat things in their forests. You know, that can be a food system, you know? And if you're moving towards things like pecans and walnuts and pawpaws and peaches and apples and mushrooms and then the world of medicinals, you know, ginseng and stuff, you know, our forests have incredible value, and even like tiny little patches of forest can play a role in food security and food sovereignty. You know, those are more familiar terms, I think, that are goals that we're reaching towards. And it's like, well, how do we get beyond that of like, well, you need a permit for the farmer's market and you're lucky if you make $5, you know? So
Matt,
yes.
I'm not to cut you off. I very much appreciate your questions about the food forest and bringing up that issue, but I do want to make sure that folks that have questions specifically about this grant opportunity have a chance to ask them.
I knew it was a tangent, and thank you for letting me tangentialize, but that is why we're here for sure. And
absolutely. Thank you, Matt, for bringing your concerns and your enthusiasm. I did want to flag
food space. Yep. So
it's all right. I see that Jamie, you have your hand up, and I also see that Carlos asked a question in the chat a couple minutes ago, and that question was, can larger organizations with larger budgets collaborate with smaller organizations without their budgets being considered?
That's a good question. So the smaller organization would likely have to be the lead. And I believe that it depends on I'd say the logistics of the actual proposal, like how will the proposal be played out? So if the larger organization is serving in a supporting role, then we're happy to consider that. We don't necessarily want to X out larger organizations, but we want to be sure that smaller scale organizations are prioritized in this grant opportunity. To Matt, I wanted to say that I can connect you with Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy, and maybe we can go from there. I'm actually very interested in that. And then for Jamie, would you like to go off of mute and ask your question? You're on mute, Jamie.
Sorry about that. I apologize for just coming on video right now. I have a 3-year-old who refuses to wear clothes in the house, and he's my coworker. Unfortunately, if there's a sniffle, we don't get to go to preschool. So yeah, he's helping mommy today. Luckily, my mom has him occupied in the other room right now. But yeah, it was a little chaotic here earlier. So I've read of the RPF briefly, or excuse me, the request briefly when it first came out, but do all to qualify to apply for the grant, do all of the criteria that is listed have to be met? I shouldn't say used to, we still do operate some school gardens, but they're outside of the city limits. And what we're doing now with my organization, we're opening a co-op to also provide support to not only like the people in the community that we're serving, but also the farmers that we're working with, the growers and purveyors that we work with as well. So my background is actually in finance, and I worked in the restaurant industry as well. And my team is really great. We have some ag specialists. We have our community education programs. We have a really great ecologist that works with us. And then, but our education programs aren't just agriculture. We touch on every aspect of sustainability. So that was my other question too, because our education programs also include ecology, economics, self-care, and nutrition. Would we not qualify from the education perspective, and then also from the food access perspective, like I said, we're opening the co-op. And we do have a community outreach program as well. So those who participate in our community outreach, they do have the option to be part of our beta testing, and also like reduced membership and other incentives that we have, like increased SNAP incentives as opposed to somebody who's not a member, and dividends and voting rights, of course. But they also have access to education programs for self-care, nutrition. A lot of people who live in, who come from economically disparaged areas, they tend to not have the best palates, or well, because of access, but also because of environment and exposure. And it could also be something that is like a spectrum disorder that's undiagnosed. We work with a lot of kids who are on the spectrum, and a lot of them are sensory eaters. So a lot of what we do are sensory aversion therapies as well. And this is actually something I'm on a working group for the Farm to School grant. And I really, and also the Farm Bill, but I'm really pushing for more education in regards to, those types of programs where it is looking at like, okay, how can we help this person not only like provide access, because you can give a kid a fruit or vegetable, or an adult, but if they're not going to eat it, they're not going to eat it. You can teach them how to grow it. If they're not going to eat it, they're not going to eat it. So this is something that like I'm inquiring about every grant that we're looking into, is like, is that something that would qualify for this grant, or
The co-op specifically?
the co-op and the education programs? Because we just got funded through the Pittsburgh Foundation for the co-op. And a big part of the reason why is because we have the education programs as well. But it's not just agriculture. Was my main concern.
So how about this? How about you do, and I don't know the capacity that you or your organization has, but it sounds like you have the opportunity to submit 2 separate LOIs. One for retail distribution with the co-op, and then another one with the education, through community education with the educational programs that you provide. So we can do both, and doesn't have to be either or.
Awesome. And then my other question was, is Carrick considered part of the area for funding as well? I know that I'm sorry, I kind of missed that part because my 3-year-old should be napping right now and he's not. And he's
Yeah, it never happens when this.
I'll take the baby cues any day over 3-year-old meltdowns. I have a 12-year-old too, so that's even more fun. Yeah, he hit puberty fast and hard during the pandemic, and unfortunately we're all together in it. And he grew 7 inches in a year and looks like he's 26, and
oh my gosh,
thinks he knows everything. And I'm just like, please let us get through these next couple of years. Thank God I have the toddler who tells me I'm wonderful, and he loves me every day, because the 12-year-old doesn't. So
oh my gosh,
love on that baby as long as you can. They grow up.
No, it'll pass. 12 to about 16, they don't like anyone, so it's okay. I don't even remember what the initial question was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Carrick, is Carrick within the area?
Yes, thank you, Carlin. So Carrick would be considered the greater Pittsburgh area. They also have a Pittsburgh public school in Carrick. That's where I graduated from. So yes, absolutely.
You probably know a lot of people that I know then. My son actually goes to Young Scholars, and there's a lot of kids from Carrick that go to school with him. So they've been working with us for a lot of years. So awesome. Great. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I don't know if you saw, Niesha, Carlos also asked how many applications can be submitted by one organization. We know that it's at least 2. Is there a limit?
No, we don't have a limit, but we hope that with the applications, or excuse me, the LOIs that you do submit, you're making sure that they are comprehensive, detailed, and realistic. So please, just because you have the ability to submit multiple LOIs doesn't necessarily mean that you may have to. For Jamie's situation, I felt as though it was somewhat unique, and she had the opportunity to submit LOIs within 2 different focus areas. So that would be my recommendation. If you have LOIs within different focus areas, then you should submit multiple. If not, then just 1 per focus area, please.
Yeah, and I'm going to, if it's okay, Niesha, I just want to clarify, because I know that I personally get lost in acronyms so much. my understanding of the process that Niesha just laid out, and I just want to reiterate it, is that you submit a letter of intent, of interest or intent to the foundation, then, or to this committee. They review them, and then they will invite, you will be invited if your project is aligned with the goals of the funding opportunity. You will be invited to submit a full application, which will be some larger. Do you want to share any details, Niesha, about like what that larger application might look like, or what level of effort that would be?
Yes, so the larger application, it's some of the questions from the LOI will be duplicated, but we'll ask for a formal budget. So that's really one of the that's one of the biggest differences from the LOI and the formal application. So the LOI, we just want a general proposal description. It's probably about 3 to 5 sentences, but in the actual formal application, we'll want a full-blown project narrative. We don't have a word count for it quite yet, but it'll likely be maybe 5,000 words. And then we'll ask for a budget to go with that. So please be sure that if you are submitting these LOIs, that you have the intent to walk it all the way through. Otherwise, you may be posed with an opportunity and you may not be prepared. So please,
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, Niesha. There's a couple more questions. Dina asked, clarifying, are you able to apply if you are in pre-development stages of an urban farm?
Dina, when you say pre-development, can you expound on that?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is Dina. I go by Free. I'm talking about if you've begun the stages of a new urban farm within, it's in Homewood. We're doing a side lot urban farm, and we started some of the work, but we haven't started to plant yet. So does that qualify you or not?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Okay.
We'd love to help you build capacity over there. So please apply.
Okay. Thanks, sis.
Yes, ma'am.
Also commenting that Jamie dropped her email in the chat and said any growers that feel free to reach out if you're interested in vending through our platforms.
Nice. Okay. Jamie, I'd love to connect with you, so I'm going to send you an email separately from this.
Cool. Does anyone else have any questions about the funding opportunity or?
Wait a minute. So one of our committee members is actually on the call. So Abdul Qadir, hey Abdul, do you want to introduce yourself to folks?
Trying to find Abdul's little square on the screen here. Yeah. Can you unmute Abdul and introduce yourself? Sometimes people walk away for a second, right?
Right, that's true. Can you send him a message in the chat just to see if they're
Yeah, I will. In the meantime, there are a couple more questions. What qualifies as urban?
I'm gonna skip Carlos's question. I'm gonna go to Miranda. So Miranda,
Okay.
an unincorporated entity.
Yes, I'm able now. So sorry, guys.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Abdul Qadir Charambo, and I'm here and I'm listening. So I'm also part of the committee. So thank you, guys.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for
being
joining.
here. I'm glad you're here. We're gonna go back to Miranda's question. Can an unincorporated entity, not a nonprofit, not a business, apply? So Miranda, when you say that, are you speaking to like an individual or a group of folks? Community organization that is not a nonprofit. So Miranda, for that opportunity to arise, you all would have to have a fiscal sponsor. And if you have some trouble in locating a fiscal sponsor or finding a fiscal sponsor, please shoot me an email. I'll throw my email in the chat and I will attempt to connect you all with some type of resources to support that. I know that the Poise Foundation and several other organizations within the city of Pittsburgh, actually within the county, provide those types of services. So dropping my email in there, just send me an email, let me know. Thanks, Carlin. And just let me know. Going back to Carlos's question, I'm pretty sure as a board member of the Food Policy Council, you have an idea of what urban ag consists of, but for folks who don't, urban agriculture is agriculture, food, growing food within city limits.
That's helpful, Niesha. I would say that I don't know if by this opportunity standards, but we often also think of like, things like rain gardens and flower gardens and like apiaries, beekeeping, those things as also being sort of urban ag activities.
Absolutely.
So with that same kind of thing, like if you had bees on a property, that would qualify, Niesha?
Yes, ma'am. That's actually one of the other pieces too. So again, when I said that we don't want to limit the LOIs to just the traditional process, we're more than happy to connect you all to other types of resources. So even if the LOI, the grant application process isn't for you, you can shoot me an email and I'm happy to connect you with Craft. They have small business incubator programs for food businesses and for producers like folks who make honey or who make jams or jellies or things of that nature. So we can help you all in all types of ways.
Great. I think that that's one of the things that's so exciting about this opportunity is that it is so like there's so many wraparound services. It's not just send this application for this like narrow idea of what a project should be, but it's also it's hooking you up with the other kinds of resources that you might need if you if they can't share them, or if there's things you need that you just don't even know you need. I appreciate that layer of added service. So
Thank you. Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, would composting on a site, my interpretation of what you've shared so far, Niesha, is if that it's composting, if it's being done like with community engagement and education, would that qualify?
Absolutely. I know there's some folks over in Hazelwood, Daniel Green, I believe, he works with involvement. And Daniel was one of the folks who I had conversation with around community education and composting. So absolutely.
Nice. Great.
Oh, Daniel Little.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else have any questions for Niesha? Going once, going twice. I'm curious if, I don't know if people are interested in like, using their, like raising their hand or whatever. I'm curious how many people here think they might submit an LOI for this opportunity. Crickets. I think that that's not an expression of a lot. There we go. Jamie is. Nice.
Yay, wonderful.
And Dina also indicated a yes, a hands up. So that's awesome. Niesha, is there anything, is there anything that we can do as the Food Policy Council or this group of folks to help you with this process, or any information the committee is looking for, anything? I don't know.
No, you all have been more than supportive simply by offering up this opportunity, the opportunity on December 14th as well. So thank you all for your help and your assistance. From now to January 7th, we'll be accepting LOIs. From January 7th to the 17th, we'll be reviewing the LOIs and you'll receive some information regarding your application or your letter of intent, excuse me. And I just thank you all for joining us today. That's all I have.
That's awesome. Thank you. I was just thinking that when folks get that, those invitations to submit a full application, if it would be helpful to have another info session to go through the application steps or pieces, we certainly would be happy to host that if that would be of use.
Yes, I'm happy to do so.
Sure, great. Okay, last minute, anyone have any other last minute thoughts or questions? No, I think we're gonna finish 10 minutes early, y'all.
Wonderful. I always love to
Thanks.
finish early. So
I know,
thank
right?
you.
Beautiful day.
It is. Enjoy the sunshine. Thank you all so much for your time. Thank you, Niesha and Abdul for joining. And everyone for joining.
Yes, thank you all. Have a good
Glad
one.
I did.
Have a great
Thank
day.
you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Abdul.